Hi everyone, welcome. I've got this bin up here on my bench, camera rolling. I'm ready to check in on this worm bin to see how things are coming along. 8 days since the last time I was checked in on. Nothing too out of the ordinary going on here. Pretty routine collection of pre-made bedding we're going to use to feed. The feeding itself, coffee as usual, some kitchen scraps, a banana peel, once again, pretty routine stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary going on here. Even the grit. The grit is the same old stuff. Stuff I use over and over all the time. It's just pulverized eggshell. I'm even equipped to break out the water spray bottle should we need to dampen the material in here. So that's kind of a new addition to my wormery, but still nothing very interesting. The only interesting thing in this system here is the manner in which we're feeding it. It's the only bin of mine where I've got pocket feeding happening. And by pocket feeding, the pocket I guess is meant to not signify the pockets on your jeans. It's the pockets on a billiard table, where the bin itself is the billiard table, and then the pockets are located in the corners. There's also, I guess, the side pockets on a billiard table. This system's been fed a couple times now since we started. It's a fairly young bin, 22 days of age. So it's been it's been checked in on a couple times, fed a little bit here and there. The pockets that have been fed so far, there have been 2. The most recently fed pocket 8 days ago is the one that has this coffee filter covering it as just an indicator to remind us where that feeding occurred. And my chosen direction of switching corners was clockwise, so I'm going counterclockwise, or I guess depending on where you come from, some people might call it anti-clockwise. This would be the place that we fed previously, so a little bit of a time warp, I guess. We can go back 8 days to see how much progress this feeding zone has made over the past 8 days. And then out of curiosity, we can even go back to this one, and I believe the interval between these 2 feedings was 7 days. So if we check in here, this would take us back to 15 days. So we could do that really quick before we kind of get to the present time where we're going to feed over in this corner. Let's just do a quick little time warp to see how a 15-day-old feeding is doing, especially now that it also had a refreshing feeding laid in after it to distract some of the worms from coming in here. The one oddball thing that we used in this feeding area was some mashed potato, which still had a lot of leftovers remaining when we checked in here 8 days ago. And I'm still seeing a bit of it. And that squishy sound, I guess, would be partially just damp material squishing up against each other, but a good amount of that damp material is worms squishing against each other, I believe. So there's all kinds of light-colored scraps of paper and bedding and whatnot in here, combined with a good number of castings starting to pile up too. So things look pretty good in this feeding area, and I guess the worms will probably hang out until something really interesting lures them away. We've got a whole banana stem here. We got obvious leftovers of the mashed potatoes. There's other stuff in here too, this and that, but those are the key items, I believe. I would assume that this orange stuff has got to be a little bit of pumpkin too. So we didn't rip up the feeding area this severely last time we checked in here. We just kind of pulled it back a little bit and took a peek. So I guess since we exhibited a good amount of restraint last time we checked in here, we give ourselves a little bit of leeway and allow ourselves to be a little bit more disruptive than normal. So now the mashed potato was the interesting ingredient over there, right? Does anyone remember what the interesting ingredient was in here? I do, because it actually extends all the way to here, one of the items fed. So this is the stem of a pumpkin, a pretty good-sized pumpkin for that matter. And the reason the stem came in was because it was attached to a good chunk of the pumpkin itself. So it wasn't just the stem broken off, there was a chunk of the pumpkin beneath the stem attached to this, which should be right here if you just continue excavating carefully. You can see some of the crushed eggshell I would have used last time as grit. And I guess what I'm touching here must be the pumpkin in progress. I'll try to pull it out carefully, but I don't want to destroy the thing. I could see a good amount of leftovers on this, but it does look like they nibbled away on this side of it, the upper side of it. Or maybe it just fell off. Is that what I'm seeing down there? Maybe that's all that is. So good amount of worms all over the place right within the vicinity of where that thing was. But let's put it back right where it was. Don't want to create too much of a disruption in this feeding zone since this is the most recent one. But I do like to take a peek. I think most of my viewers know that. I can't resist taking a peek usually. So let's just pull back some of this top cover bedding material just so we can check out what happened in here. I guess I got so distracted by the pumpkin stem that I forgot what the other ingredients were, but I thought I caught a glimpse earlier of one of the items. Yeah, I think this is it here, right? A piece of banana peel. That might be a chunk of it with the stem. The stem will take a long time, but maybe the banana peel itself will get gobbled up in a pretty short period of time. And there's some other stuff down there, but like I said, I don't want to rip this thing to shreds. I'm wondering if that's cauliflower down there. That's what that might be, because it's kind of that kind of cabbagey. I guess cauliflower I think is in the cabbage family, so there's that kind of scent of something like that down there, which is kind of unusual. You normally the foods that you place into a worm bin could be a whole variety of different things that all have varying strong scents and interesting scents, but somehow once the microscopic organisms in the worm bin sort of take over the breakdown process, there's like no scent. There's really no odor at all in a worm bin, I guess is the point. At best, you'll kind of sense something that resembles kind of just nature, dirt, forest, right? Because I guess that's really what we're looking at here is a miniaturized version of the forest floor transforming leaves into dirt. So this is where we're going to feed next. I'm going to start excavating here, and then we'll have one last untouched corner over here with this little guy protecting it, this little guardian. Give him some help over there. So now this coffee filter can be also utilized as some bedding in our feeding area, because as you saw earlier, the feeding that they're getting consists of some coffee, which includes a new filter. We'll use that new filter to mark where this feeding occurred. And since this old filter's been in the bin for a while now, it's kind of seasoned in my mind, a little bit infiltrated already with microscopic organisms. Holy cow. If I'm not mistaken, this is kind of like the edge of a mango seed. And the thing is just so brittle and paper thin anymore. There's like nothing left of it, hardly. It's pretty cool to see something that's so tough in the beginning to look so fragile and brittle and almost gone at this point. Okay. I guess, you know what, I'm going to do a good size eviction here. Just make a totally clear spot, because the stuff I'm putting in here is frozen. I would feel bad if I took a whole mound of frozen veggies like this and piled it on top of some wormies hanging out down there. So what we'll do is we'll make sure there's no wormies down low, but we would want to use a little bit of our fresh pre-made bedding down here. Still some clumps of stuff in here. Some of these pieces of paper like to clump together. Oops. Let's get this little guy off of here too. Sometimes the worms really don't appreciate the intrusion. And they try to just bugger out, start moving around like maniacs. I just worry about scaring one out of the bin, having them kind of run over the edge without me noticing it, and poor little guy end up on the floor or something. That would not be a good thing. So here's a couple chunks of the banana peel. What else do we have here? whole bunch of stuff. Maybe I could just pour out about half of this. Actually, there's a really big lump of it in here that's just a kind of like a frozen wad. I could pull this out as a single item later, unless it thaws and melts all over the place. Here's some more banana peels. This stuff's got to be loaded with moisture. It looks like a lot of ice crystals too have formed here as the moisture in the material kind of starts to come out of the material. Just gets frozen up. So all that stuff, as it melts, should make for a really cozy spot for the worms, kind of increasing the moisture level. Not that it's so important to increase the moisture level in here, because the moisture level is actually very good everywhere within the bin that I've checked so far. I mean, everywhere we've checked has been fed, so there's like old remnants of food still kind of dumping out their moisture into the bin everywhere we've checked. Maybe we could just take a quick peek in here too. Yeah, moisture's really good over there too, even where there's been no feedings yet. But this is where we're going to go next week. And even though there's been no feedings in there, there's just worms hanging out there, occupying that corner, making it their own. So next time we come in here, we'll evict them and throw the next feeding into there. And at that point, we will have touched on every one of the 4 corners in the system. And then we could just start overlapping and returning back to the first corner that we fed. By then, there could probably be very few leftovers, maybe no more mashed potatoes. That's still a couple weeks away, so we'll see when we get there. But I would think that if there are leftovers at that point, there wouldn't be many. And then it wouldn't make a difference if we just added a little bit more to it. So, whoops. This is a tempting little pile of carrots. So we had mashed potatoes, then we had a big pumpkin stem. So we had a number of novel type corner feedings. But I think the novelty here is really supposed to be the fact that we're just, shifting the feeding spot from place to place every time in an orderly fashion, so we can actually return to see how things are progressing in the previously fed sections. So it's oops, good thing this filter didn't let loose when I was pulling it out of the machine. No, it wouldn't. But this has been this way for a couple days now. It was just sitting in this little tray. So that's our new feeding zone indicator. Once we get things covered up here, we can indicate where our most recent feeding was with that. Let's see if I can mix in this last little bit of coffee I applied in such a way that it commingles with its surrounding stuff. And then, I don't know, I guess what's been pushed aside should be enough to cover up with here. I don't think I need to bring any more bedding in. Interesting. I don't know, should I grab a handful? I don't mind bringing fresh bedding in. I don't have to give myself much of an excuse to do it. Just need some sort of proposition to rationalize it. I'll usually buy in. So the other thing we get to cover up with here too is this. It's pretty good, even though the whole system's going to have like a big sheet of paper across the cover, top covering things, and also a piece of plastic. I just feel better sort of going a little bit overboard on covering up stuff where the feeding has been happening, because I don't want it to suddenly start emitting smells that passerby insects. Not to say that my basement has got a lot of insects in it, but still, you never know. I don't want to create a portion of my basement that's a spot where pests would start turning to get sustenance. So this is a fun bin. As we start returning the coverings, it starts to become less and less interesting. Just kind of blends in with all the rest of my bins. Plastic coverings keeping the moisture in. Cardboard coverings keeping them light out. Let it remain nice and shaded and comfy for the worms. But now, once again, it looks like just your everyday worm bin. Not very interesting, I guess, but once you pull back the covers, there's a little bit of fun to be had in there. That is, if you make that out of it. Some people might treat this as a utility. Hey, grab this stuff from the kitchen, we got to chuck it into the compost bin before we leave today. Boom, boom, boom. 30 seconds, the job is done. Others, like me, might treat it more as like a little bit of a hobby, so kind of make fun out of it. Not make fun of it, make some fun out of it, you know. But then again, I guess some people might make fun of it too. I don't know. Do you get picked on because of your hobby? Do you not tell people? Being a little bit unusual, out of the ordinary? I think most people are happy to reveal how they get rid of their compostable stuff at home, but others might not. Alright everyone, that's it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as usual, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up. That's always very much appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel too. That's really appreciated as well. Alright everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching.